A very nice warm day. Are you enjoying your Black History Month celebration so far? Yes. I am too. It's such an honor to be here with you to celebrate this event. And I want to let you know I've never been to the Central Jersey College Prep Charter School before. I had to write it down. It's a long name. I was told that your theme is overcoming obstacles. And let me tell you, I overcome obstacles every day of my life. But what I do is I turn obstacles into stepping stones. That's what I call it. So obstacles to me are stumbling blocks. So you have a block in front of you. Instead of going around the block, you step on that block and turn it into a stepping stone. So that's what I'm going to talk to you about today. I'm going to share with you my life, which I normally don't do. Because I'm an elected official, I'm a public figure, and everything I say and everything I do is a public record. I can't go to the grocery store and people don't see me as a public official. But I'm going to let you know about my life and how I overcome obstacles and how I have turned stumbling blocks into stepping stones. I grew up in the projects in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Very, very, very poor. Grew up hungry most of the time. We stood in government lines back then, and they gave out free food. And they gave out powdered milk, they gave out government cheese, big blocks of peanut butter. It was so thick you could hardly even spoon it out, you had to slice it. My father was a fisherman, and he was a hunter. We ate possum, rabbit, groundhog, whatever he caught for meat, and fish whenever he went fishing. My mother was a day worker. She wasn't educated, and she worked in white people's homes, cleaning up, taking care of their children. I never grew up with a new pair of shoes, anything new clothes, no type of new toys. But in my very young age, I said to myself, I'm going to overcome this obstacle. I will never be poor a day in my life. So what did I do? I made sure I got straight A's. From the time I was in the first grade, even though I went to an inner city public school, I made straight A's. I studied very hard. And by the time I got into 12th grade, I decided I was going to apply to every Ivy League school out there. And I got into Harvard University. And believe me, I overcame an obstacle because I didn't have guidance counselors helping me, telling me how to get into Harvard. I studied for 2 years for the SATs. I was determined I was not going to be poor. I got to Harvard. I matriculated into Radcliffe at that time. It was Radcliffe and Harvard. If you were a woman, you went into Radcliffe. And it was very segregated back then in 1977. I decided that I wanted to be an engineer. Now, during that time, you didn't hear very many things about a black female being an engineer. But I read the newspaper, not because I liked math, not because I wanted to be an engineer. I read the newspaper, and the newspaper said, the one ads back then, you had one ads, newspapers. You guys don't know too much about that, because in this day and age, it said engineer, 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 engineer. So I said, okay, if I want to have a job, and I don't want to be poor another day in my life, I'm going to be an engineer. So I decided I wanted to be an engineer. My academic advisor looked at me and he said, you will never be an engineer. For me, that was an obstacle. I looked at that as a stumbling block, but I was going to turn it into a stepping stone. I got a job in the library. I studied very, very hard. I got a tutor. I worked so I could have a tutor, and I had a tutor for 4 years. I never got an A at Harvard because they wasn't going to give me an A because I was black and I was a female. I was the only female in my class during that time to major in engineering and to graduate from Harvard as a female engineer. And when I graduated from Harvard, I had 25 job offers, and I probably made the most money out of anybody in my class. In 1981, I got a job working at New York Telephone, making, back then, it was a lot of money, $24,000 a year. It was a lot of money for me anyway. And so even while I was at New York Telephone, they said to me, oh, you know, you're never going to be anything. Everywhere I went, people told me I was never going to be anything. And then my boss said to me, even though you've got a Harvard degree, you're not going to rise above here. You're going to stay as an engineer. You're never going to be anything. I said, okay. I stayed there. I got all the work and credentials that I needed, and I left there, and I got another job somewhere else and got paid more money. So I'm saying all that to say, I would have never, Black History Month is something that everybody in America has benefited from. I would have never gone to Harvard if it wasn't for W.E.D. Du Bois. W.E.D. Du Bois was a historian. He was the first African American that ever graduated from Harvard with a doctorate. So because he went to Harvard, I was able to go to Harvard. I'm also saying that during the whole idea of Black History Month is clearly we were overcoming obstacles and turning stumbling blocks into stepping stones. When we were thirsty, we couldn't drink out of their fountains. When we were hungry, we couldn't eat at their restaurants. When we wanted to go to school, we couldn't go to their schools. If we went to their churches, we had to sit in the back of the church. If we wanted to, we had to watch our loved ones be hung on trees and lynched. We had to pick cotton and we had to build America, but at the same time, they didn't consider us 100% human. But after slavery, we turned our obstacles into, our stumbling blocks into stepping stones, and we overcame all of those obstacles. So because we couldn't be buried in their cemeteries, we built our own cemeteries. Because we had to sit in the back of their churches, we opened up our own churches. Because we couldn't go to their banks and put our money in, Black people opened up their own banks. Because we couldn't eat the restaurants, we opened up our own restaurants. So we overcame a lot of obstacles. And we heard everybody sing here today, the Black Negro Anthem that was written by James Weldon Johnson, which says, lift every voice and sing. He wrote that song back in 1899. 1899, he was saying, let us march on until victory is won. And that's what Black America did in Black America. So I'm going to leave you with this. Black History Month is all about overcoming obstacles. Think about it. We had the first Black president in the United States. Our president, Barack Obama. He made us all so very proud. All so very proud. And if Black people can overcome all of that, we can overcome anything. And I also want to leave you with the song with Art Kelly, who wrote for the movie Space Jam. I believe I can fly. I believe I can touch the sky. I think about it every night and day. Somebody can sing it. Spread my wings and fly away. I believe I can soar. I can run through, I see me running through the open door. All right? I believe I can fly. I believe I can fly. And that's what you